themselves. Looks like the TSM trick book was enough that C9 wanted to get them off red side.
Still do expect a lot of the similar bans to come through, like these target ban. You know, the Kindred here aimed at Blabber. He has been exceptional on this champion, so no real surprise so far. But TSM being on blue side this time around does cause Cloud9 to take down the Braum rather than pick it early.
Yeah,
That little grin as Zillion gets banned.
a colleague on too. So actually quite a few changes already so far in this pick and ban.
And I've been hearing so much when I'm talking to players about, you know, Cloud9 right now. A part of the reason why so many players think they are so good and the best team, you know, one of the best teams maybe, is that they don't just rely on one strategy. So I've been waiting for the Zillion to get banned out, not because it's like, oh, Jensen can only play the Zillion and, you know, Blabber's gonna fail if he doesn't have a revive for him, but because I want to see, you know, how deep does that rabbit hole go. People have been saying they can use anything in Champ Select and still be extremely successful.
And I'm really excited to see if we're going to get to find out what assassin Jensen wants to play, right? You know, with obviously he's great on the Zillion, he's great on these supportive mids, but he has been dominant when he brought out the Fizz. He has been so good on a lot of those assassins as well.
Xayah Rakan left up here, and TSM already banning an extra support ban on this one. Will they grab the Rakan to start this one up?
I feel like somebody's got to play LeBlanc this time around. With mid-ban starting to come in, LeBlanc still being up, she is so strong right now. I feel like it could be a good option.
Instead, it's going to be a new look. No, they're going to stick
Wow.
on with this Shen. And TSM, who had banned Rakan every single game, give now the option to Cloud9 as they would rather ban the Zillion and the Tahm Kench.
Yeah, and such a high priority on tank junglers in general. 3 of 3 games, or sorry, tank supports rather. Being first pick 3 of 3 games. We have a couple bans that way this time around as well. We'll see if Zeyzal feels like he needs to play another tank support, and he's going to go straight for the Leona.
I love some Leona. Very offensive tank support. You know, it is, yes, it's a tanky support, but you get to create
Going
kills
in.
all the time. You go in, you have super long range AoE stun, which I think really, really highlights this skirmish style that Cloud9 have had. If you're roaming on Leona, you can add to that fight, you know, an extra couple seconds before you get there with the long range of your ultimate. It's not quite as long as the Ornn that we've been seeing, but it's definitely going to allow Zeyzal some freedom early on in the game.
And we got to see Mithy actually bring this out in the quarterfinals, I do believe, against Echo Fox. He brought that out against Xayah Rakan, so pretty exciting stuff to see that coming back into the meta.
Well, Sejuani grabbed up for TSM, so this is a champion that had been banned every single game by Cloud9. Grig is now on a team fighter, and a great frontline tank at that, so TSM still indexing towards that playstyle. Gangplank going to be grabbed as well. Another pick then banning away from Licorice.
Now, this is a way for TSM to get more damage into the lineup without moving Grig off of a tank. They have had him on tanks primarily, pretty much the entire time. But Haunter has actually had really good performances in the past on Gangplank for the team, even when they have been struggling. So I do kind of like this. Also, in addition, you're going to add more globals to kind of cover if Cloud9 are roaming a lot and looking for early kills. You can add to those with your globals.
And it also opens up for an AP bot lane if you want to run that, because you have a heavy physical damage source. So I mentioned it briefly in game 1, but you have that possibility of the Swain.
Yeah, the Swain and Shen, very good combo, as you said. A lot of crowd control there. You're going to be facing 100% against this Quinn Leona here. Well, not 100%. There's a small chance that Licorice would flex it.
But it's 99.
Into the Gangplank. I mean, you can try and have jungle pressure and camp a Gangplank. Camille Quinn actually can get off early kills and dive that. So, yes, that's what we're thinking is probably sneaky again, but it could be Cloud9 looking to have Licorice. This guy, spring split, came into the team, kind of changed the entire face. People had pretty low expectations after Impact left, but he is honestly one of the big stars right up there with Sneaky for Cloud9 now.
Oh, he's been absolutely big, and I'm not even sure the Camille might not go to him either. You know, any one of these aggressive picks, even if it's not one of the ones that's been locked in so far. And, you know, what does Blabber even play? Like, does he get to play something aggressive like a Lee Sin or a Gragas alongside that? There's so many looks. That is the advantage of red side. That's why C9 picked it here. As the bans come through, 2 different marksmen away from Sven. That Swain's still up. 2 mages banned away on TSM's side. No LeBlanc, no Rise towards Jensen.
It will be very interesting to see if they're going to save that last pick for Jensen or Licorice. You know, Licorice, as you mentioned, has had a meteoric rise. Rookie of the split, last split, first team top laner this split, potentially could even be in the running for the MVP as one of those first teamers. So pretty crazy.
And they're just going to go back to tanks here on this one. TSM actually called it pretty well on their own side. He's played Ornn every single game. will blind the Gangplank, you'll still pick it. And so a good matchup for Hanser. He's going to have a free license to farm, and Licorice may well be stuck under his turret doing so.
I mean, you can't help but like the look of this super long-range crowd control with very mobile damage dealers for Cloud9. Not only is it the Ornn this time around once again, but again, Leona is also going to be able to create picks for them to allow Blabber and Sneaky to capitalize on it. And there is kind of their go-to AP bottom lane, is by far their most played mage.
And this is going to be a pretty dangerous bottom lane on both sides, because you have relatively short-range marksmen. You have this very powerful all-in potential from the Shen and the Swain, as well as from the Leona and that Quinn down there. So whoever gets ahead really can start to dominate and kind of zone out their opponents.
Ooh, and another squishy, highly aggressive mid laner for Bjergsen. Back-to-back Akali games turns into Aurelia now for him, and they have that magic damage for Swain to make that work out nicely. Cloud9 now need the last pick.
He said after quarterfinals, he's just going to keep playing Assassins. He doesn't care if you ban them out. Akali off the table, LeBlanc off the table. It's the Aurelia again.
Yeah. All right, Cloud9, last few seconds. Galio, more dive to join with the team. It's the full forward motion team for Cloud9.
There's a lot more damage really in TSM's team, but at the same time, fantastic gank assist in all three lanes really here for the Camille to get out there and be proactive. And while this is not the Zillion to back Blabber up, there is that heroic entrance flying in, looking to lock down some of these squishy guys.
And that is a classic combination. Camille hook shot, Hextech ultimatum in to keep in place someone guaranteed to get knocked up by the Galio ultimate afterwards. So that is as free of a pick as you could possibly get. In addition, the long-range ult and the long-range Ornn ult that we went over. So Cloud9 have plenty of tools to continue to look for those early kills, whereas TSM, they got a different look as far as the scaling options this time around.
That being said, I feel like if Sneaky and Blabber are not having a good game, you are not going to have enough damage to punch through a Swain in ultimate, to punch through the Sejuani up in your face. And the longer the team fight goes, you have to think it may favor TSM.
It just might. Players on your screen, game 3 coming ahead. Someone's going to be on match point at the conclusion of this game. Crowd is ready, the players getting ready as well. Coach is no longer on stage. It's down to these 10 players and how they navigate Summoner's Rift to lead their team toward victory. Cloud9 and TSM, historic rivals. They've met so many times in high-pressure best-of-5s, and now it's time to decide who will be leading this series 2-1 as we hit Summoner's Rift.
I want to see if this time around for TSM, if Grig can work better with Bjergsen. Sejuani Aurelia is one of the best mid-jungle combinations for early kills. You can easily stack up the stun for Sejuani's passive, allowing Aurelia to land hers, guaranteed for sure. So there are a lot of options for those two players trying to up the synergy.
Going to be very exciting to see double cleanse brought by TSM here on Bjergsen and Sven. Really respecting the tremendous amount of CC that is over on that Cloud9 squad.
Hanser with the rubber pencil trick.
Hanser also, is going to be on grass, so it's more about being able to kind of brawl and sustain in that lane. It is more of the strong laning option, but it is not so much just bank plank, farming off them, being able to get super, super rich like you can if you rush inspiration.
Yeah, it won't quite be the fast item spikes, but likely more total stats. As long as you consider health useful on Gangplank, and I think that tends to be pretty true. And we'll see where the fights come through. Sven going to be now on the blue team with the rest of TSM as Cloud9 chose red for the first time this series. Grig will be leashed by Hanser, top side of the blue buff. Top side leash for Blabber as well, as Liquid's going to grab the red.
Yeah, so often, again, as we kind of went over last game, you want to start the red for Camille to have the threat of the dueling added in. Your hookshot allows you to choose your engagements. We'll probably look for scuttle control pretty early on.
While it is a very far-off concern for Cloud9, they do have to worry somewhat in the late game about the fact that they are very physical damage heavy with the Camille and this Quinn as their main damage dealers. Yes, you can have an AP Galio, but that's not really a threat on a full tank Sejuani. You're going to have things like the Hourglass being built up and being very effective on Sven on this Swain as well.
It's a nice hit, though. Cloud9 still will have the push lead. They'll get level 2 first as Zeyzal continues to battle. And actually drops Vision, so no auto attack comes through for Sneaky, but still will be level 2 first before too long TSM have to back out of this lane. Just for a short time.
Already, Blabber gonna walk into the Tri-Brush ward here, so TSM will get vision of him. Let's see if Grig is gonna react. He's just gonna take the Krugs right now while they see the double invade of Cloud9 going past the red buff you can see. Now Blabber's still level 2 here. And one of the things with Camille is that you can fall behind in the farm game and spend a lot of time running around the map looking for those gank opportunities. But he is able to take up the Raptor camp while he's here, so not really completely wasted time.
Was spotted out by Bjergsen, though. A good ward from him, so that at least gives Grig the knowledge of where he is on the map right now. We'll see if Blabber wants to try to make his way up to the top side to grab that second scuttle, as he was able to last game.
So far, so good on the Cloud9 side. Blabber in a decent spot again. Did the, I think, partial Wolves to get himself closer to level 3. Has that now, and no one's going to really contest him. Grig did an early recall. Got some more wards for himself. Aftershock here on the Sejuani, par for the course. No Predator, no early boots, but you don't expect that.
And I think he should go grab the scuttle before the Camille can get back into the river. Blabber didn't actually check to see if Grig had been here already, so Grig is going to be able to take this one up. Won't get double scuttled again this time around. And mid lane is primed. Vincent has to be a little bit careful.
I think for him, though, the wave's pushing in, so he's going to start backing out towards his turret. No gank to be had there. He'll stay safe. Greg had done Krugs as part of his clear. That's why he was level 3 on 3 camps. And otherwise, though, able to mostly full clear. Will be down a camp because the Raptor's being taken, but otherwise, I think, just fine for the Sejuani.
And again, Sejuani does have a lot of good options around that mid lane. Aurelia can Q. Whenever you Q to a target, you'll go through the target. That can be very useful in trying to stop Galio's Justice Punch, or the Sejuani coming in, trying to use the Arctic Assault to get in place, and becomes that mind game with flashes for them if they try and actually focus down gently.
And that Blade Surge, I believe, also applies another stack of the passive there for Sejuani, allowing you to stack it up even faster, and as you said earlier, Kobe, line up for that guaranteed Aurelia stun.
Fourth Swain game here is Sven. Decent scoreline on this one. We saw a second ago him checking for a potential lane gank out of the Camille using Vision of Empire, though nothing was there. Camille was killing Grom. Either way, has been a little bit of that. Nice little bit of damage. No auto coming through for Sneaky, so most of that damage is not realized, but he was on cooldown, so he was safe.
Yeah, no Harrier proc, but it's dangerous there as Mithy and Sven were just at the edge of the brush. Didn't want to get too close to all those minions.
And you can see Sven actually checked the river brush that time again with the Vision of Empire, so he's really trying to use that pretty proactively as a vision tool. And that's a very smart adaptation, especially for pro, trying to cover some of these windows where you might not know exactly where that Camille is at.
And right now, Haunts are actually not having the best time in this lane, actually. Licorice with a temporary CS lead and more minions to farm, so pretty good stuff so far in this matchup. We'll see as it turns on in the future, though. Haunter is yet to make his first recall and buy his first item. He's getting pretty close to his Sheen timing. In fact, there it is, and that's par for the course for a Gangplank to get back in the lane with that item. And this is where the matchup usually starts to turn around. You've got the mana pool, the CDR, and almost double the Q damage.
Yeah, it really does get frustrating laning against Gangplank once they have their early Sheen. They're just going to sit there and spam Q on you over and over and over. And this is also a great Sterix game. You talked about kind of the value of HP on a Gangplank. When you have the Sterix, when you're stacking up grass constantly by kind of queuing onto that tank, you can get fairly durable on this Gangplank. And when you're against kind of this one-punch style team, that
Here we go, 2v2.
A fight. Out they go, though, and no re-engage towards Jensen. That's a pretty clean escape there by
So
T9.
the reason why TSM didn't pull collapse right there is because the Leona was heading up first here. Zeyzal was already first on the roam up through the TSM territory. So it was a good call actually by TSM, probably the bottom lane telling Bjergsen and Grig that they could not join it and they would have to give that up.
Lucky battle here. Good smite by Grig, picks that one up.
Once again, this guy.
That one uncontested at least.
He was very good at smiting. Okay, well that makes it a bit easier.
Either way, it's still a good smite. He picked it up, so that's kind of nice. And it's an equal camp count here now for the two junglers. So that's been equalized. The gold barely 100 apart, so a very tight early game. That could be good for TSM with some great team fighters.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very different game from the last, where it was 3 straight scuttles for Blabber. This time it is 2 out of the 3 have gone to Greg, so he's going to be a lot more comfortable with the start point for their team, with their ability to be able to kind of scale forward, and how durable this Sejuani can be in the later team fights.
Mythion Award was looking for a potential play, not going to find it though. No Sight Stone yet for him. That's going to take a few more minutes. Licorice continues to push forward, take some barrel damage, but otherwise still pushing. Temporary CS lead for him. Grasp still triggering for Hanser. He's feeling quite a lot better, obviously on the gangplank after that spike. Blue handed off to Bjergsen as we keep keeping track of the map. First recalls came through for the bottom lane. BF Sword versus Blasting Water and Ruby Crystal.
Likely just going to be the Rod of Ages rush here for Zen, but I do expect him to go quickly into his Zhonya's after that. I think Zhonya's is so incredibly good as an answer to this Camille Galio combo. You can actually fizzle the Camille ultimate if it is in the air and use Zhonya's, or if you get hit by that, you can actually block out that potential Galio ultimate coming through.
Yeah, looking at it is really scary though, because Cloud9 has so many forms of crowd control. Putting yourself in stasis also kind of sets you up for the next one too. But it definitely is worthwhile dodging some of the key abilities. I do expect to see a lot of Merc Treads, honestly, on a lot of the TSM members for this game, even though you mentioned Cloud9, they're so heavy on attack damage. They have so much CC that you do need to get some source of tenacity. You can actually find a pretty good source in the yellow rune tree.
Yeah, Legend Tenacity, pretty
Legend
strong.
is pretty good, a lot of it actually. So maybe we can check in and see if they've made that adaptation.
Yeah, Bjergsen and Greg could easily grab that one. No one else has precision runes, but now looking to fight in the mid side. The 2-on-2 though as they go for the taunt. A lot of damage, but part of it's blocked. Bjergsen still taking a bunch of hits though. Galio's going to re-engage. Damage production, not enough to keep him alive. It's actually Hanser who grabs that kill as they showed up with the ult as well.
A really nice job there from TSM. They get the first kill onto Blabber. That GP ultimate was huge.
Yeah, the thing that we mentioned in Champion Select, the double globals here for TSM are so good at answering these Cloud9 skirmishes that they keep looking for. They throw down the Shen ultimate immediately. With the Gangplank ultimate, they're able to turn it around.
That's basically that 3.5 members coming in for TSM. Cloud9 is thinking, hey, this is a 2v2 we can win. In comes Blabber trying to peel up from Bjergsen. It was a good initial taunt, but then the Shen ultimate can come through, the GP ultimate goes down, and it's so tough to win this part there.
Yeah, they even channel a teleport here for Cloud9, and Licorice does end up canceling it because the kill had already come through, but that's a pretty big cooldown.
Nicely done. Stops that recall.
It also feels so good as GP when you're up in the top lane and you got first blood from your ultimate. Like, being able to get the last hit there is just going to make it harder and harder for Licorice. As really you are just kind of the punching bag on this matchup unless you have your jungler up there to help as the Ornn.
Looking at a bit of a brush play there. Hanser just
Even got red buff.
Yeah, that is the ideal Gangplank ultimate. You get to win lane for free on this one, and Greg actually now slinking into the top side, I believe was unspotted by Ward, so if Licorice goes too aggressive, this could be turned around in a heartbeat. No ults available to the top of jungle. Quick dance. Wow, good read. Good read. He'll be safe under his turret here. This game only 700 apart, slightly more than is determined by the first blood itself, Gangplank being a portion of that, of course. And this game is otherwise pretty tied. Yeah, so you can see a 500 gold lead specifically on the top lane. That's kind of what you expect. Everyone else pretty close to equal, barely more than 100 in any given spot.
And you can see the importance placed on the tenacity even for C9. Zeyzal rushes to those Mercury Treads. When you have the Never Move route, you have the Shen taunt, stun from Aurelia, CC coming out from Sejuani. So there's a tremendous amount of CC really on both sides, and maybe a very, very Merc Tread heavy game on both sides.
Expectation for me as well here on this one is wards are cleared back and forth a little bit. Matthew trying to keep his jungle in darkness, make sure Grig's got his own safety to get around the map as needed. Zeyzal's just gonna put the clip. All right, round 2, Mithy's winning.
Support gameplay. Honestly though, the supports are a pretty good focus right now because they do have their level 6s. You saw the benefit of Mithy's with the Shen ultimate in mid lane, allowing them to get that first blood, but we haven't yet seen the Leona full power. Zeyzal has access to his ultimate, very big for picking, as we were saying. If Cloud9 could try and find someone out. But again, they haven't gone to the stage. They haven't had the early success where they can go for those super deep invades and find TSM in transition.
Yeah, I don't think you can really all in a level 8 Swain who already has his Roa completed and his stopwatch. It's going to be so hard to burst that guy down, even if you do land your entire combo. So they're going to have to be pretty careful about where they actually look for those opportunities.
Oh, Smite fight. Round 2.
Gives it up. His
Easy.
mid laner's not there.
Blabber already knows Rig's going to win that one. Incredible play. Doesn't even need Smite to win. Good job, Greg. More victories for TSM. Their fans cheer very meekly for not that impressive play. I oversold it. It's true. Watch back on the bottom side, though, as the Storm Razor's done. That could be good damage, but blocked out. Nicely done to Mithy.
I think a lot of this really does feel like both teams are just waiting, to fight around those neutral objectives. Both teams confident in their mid-game team fights, and I think that C9 has incredibly strong engage, but it really is so much about having that effective first punch, being able to kill someone off at the start, or you're going to kind of get worn down, I think, by a lot of these members from TSM.
Well, some damage is starting to come into it. Blabber's already walking over a ward, so TSM will be able to avoid this mid pass, but the Trinity Force, very important for Haunter, has been picked up, as well as jungle item completions are starting to come through. Warrior for Blabber on Camille is pretty decent.
And as the game slows down, we can talk a little bit about so much of the history that has kind of come into this series and between these two teams. In 2014, the last time that Cloud9 won a best-of-5 against TSM, but TSM knocked out for the first time ever before finals in spring. Knocked out in the quarterfinals by Clutch. C9 looking like the stronger team in the summer split, certainly, and looking to make that a pattern for TSM to have them knocked out in playoffs before finals 2 straight splits.
Cloud9 this year, this split, just won Academy Worlds yesterday.
That's true.
Academy Finals.
Yeah.
And they're
You said it right the first time, Academy
They're
Worlds.
looking to do it in the LCS as well. That has been
true.
the end goal. That's where the road leads. But as you said, Azale, TSM want to make people forget about spring this year by getting to the finals once again and taking that banner and hanging it up here in the studio.
And as much of a mainstay as Jensen has been with Cloud9 in the NALCS, he's never won that championship, right? He has been chasing it for so long, and you said it, they got within 1 game of winning in Vancouver. Were not able to actually close that series out. The previous split, they lost 3-1. It feels like they had been making progress, and this time you do think that C9 are coming in as a favorite, but TSM has so much strength on this roster.
In this particular game, Blabber has been over-visioned,
They're
but
going
here
for
we
play.
go.
He's joining in. Here's the ults coming across as well, and the teleport joining in. This could be the fight. A taunt comes in. Can they knock down the front line? His health bar is getting low, but Jensen stays alive. A big knockup for Licorice. Galio re-engages, and TSM running away, but Bjergsen's going to fall. Blabber picks up 1, but Swain is in the mix. Sven's going in. He's found 1. He's going to look for more. 50 pops a stopwatch. He's going to be re-hit. Sneaky grabs himself the kill. Then it's going to be another kill. Another 2, as Swain has found his second. But Blabber's going to fall for number 3. Sven's wiping the floor with this one. He's found the 4th, and he's looking for number 5. Licorice is running. He's trying to stay alive. He's going to get over the wall, and he's got a Gangplank hitting him now. It's going to be a tight one. Even a Drake is going to help TSM, and the ace grabbed by Hanser.
Like C9 Drake is trying to finish off Haunter. He can't do it.
He's gonna survive, but you see the staying power there from Sven. Such an incredible team fight for him. Gets the quadra kill. C9 had spent out all of their damage on these other members. The Swain just wanders into the fight untouched and starts to take over, but here it is, starting off one more time.
As Sven said, he's looking to make people forget about spring, get to the finals. TSM, they re-engage onto Jensen here, and Licorice's teleport finishes first, so he gets off the Ornn ultimate, and the Galio allows Cloud9 to chase, but then here is Sven going off, getting 1, 2, 3 kills very quickly.
Yeah, and he was so tanky. They don't have enough damage left in the tank to really kind of burst him down. A lot of critical misses from the ultimates as well from C9. The Leona ultimate didn't stun anyone. The Galio ultimate didn't get a knockup on anyone. There were some critical spells that missed, and that allowed TSM with those extra damage dealers to sustain in the fight and take them down.
This was hilarious. Blast cone over, but Sven's able to get the pull back there off of the Drake. And the Mountain Drake actually does have very low attack speed, does pretty much the lowest DPS. Not able to kill him off. And there we go, see some cheers from TSM side. 6 kills now for them.
Yeah, the fans showing up in droves today to support these two teams. So it's a lot closer, I feel like, in the fan votes and the matchups than it used to be in the past with TSM, where it was just a given that they would have more fans, a given that they would win those fan votes. And
Gotta work
pretty
for
tight
it.
these days.
Yeah, they had spent some of that trust. They had a lackluster spring. They missed their first ever final, and it was easy to hate them, but TSM maybe going to make that streak start once again after that 1 weak link in the chain. Sitting on a 1,400 gold lead, pretty much all of it sitting on Sven here. So he's going to find that he's walking into the lane. So he's going to stay safe on that Quinn unless Sven lands a skill shot.
Yeah, you have to be very careful. You definitely have to respect the skill shots coming out of Sven now with the extra 4 kills coming in. He's got magic penetration with the orb as well as an extra blasting wand down there. And TSM definitely wants to try and play off of that point of power now, especially since you have globals that can add into it with the gangplank. You know, Hunter's in a very secure spot now. He can farm from the top side, try and just add his ult down to bottom, allow them to play around Sven.
I feel like the game gets pretty tough, honestly, for C9 from this point. I think TSM is happy to play a slow, measured game. And it's going to be up to C9 to really find strong engages and really be able to make those plays happen. Because if you don't get those good engages, Gangplank's going to sit back and farm and farm and farm and really kind of take an edge on that top side.
Just trying to set up the bait for this one, but not going to bite on the hook, so Blabber no gank to be had here. As the Iceborne Gauntlet is through, and Licorice is building for dueling, at least a little bit. Not getting all that much done. Has good farm still.
And Haunter not even stepping close to the lane there. No way he's going to go overextend himself on the top side. Waits at the turret, just one-shots the wave when it comes to him. Again, you can just farm there, add your ultimate down to the bottom side.
C9, though, they know TSM is on the dragon. They are collapsing down here. Licorice doesn't have TP, but he is walking.
Blabber's pretty far, too.
Level 11 on Sven, bit of damage towards him, but his swing can do almost anything he wants. The stun comes down, they're gonna go for this fight. Is it gonna be enough though? They turn back around towards Bjergsen. Can they burn down the Aurelia? Yes, 1 kill picked up, but Sven's still there. He's still got a stopwatch as well, but he's taunted. And then he pops it. He's gonna wait, he's gonna come back in. Will he have the burst? They're trying to take him down, and he does get the explosion, but it's only for a trade kill. Cloud9 smashed the team fight.
C9 with such a decisive engage there. Zeyzal going in knowing the team can collapse.
There are 20 seconds left on Baron as well. If that had been 1 or 2 more kills, if they had been able to get Grig and stop him from getting out of that dragon, Cloud9 could have transitioned over to Baron. Because Grig is still up though, there is a smite, so they cannot do that. Gonna take the bottom turret instead, and that is gonna be some gold in their pockets. It's actually the first turret of the whole game, bonus gold.
Cloud9 now have a substantial gold lead off that team fight. We can watch this battle again.
Yeah, and I was surprised they engaged because the Ornn is not in position, but they decided to say, okay, GP is not here. We can bring in the Galio. Let's go. Zeyzal moves forward to start it off.
And critically, Zeyzal didn't use his E on Leona to initiate that. He was pulled in by Sven, so then he got to use his E out onto Grig as they were focusing him, and allows C9 to buy some more time. Then they return, they take down the Swain, get the shutdown. Even though it did go over to Leona, not exactly the correct place there for him, they still were able to get it.
And you can see how difficult it is for Aurelia to team play in this matchup. With the Leona getting on top, you have the cleanse, sure, but then the Galio flies in. There's so much CC, there's the Quinn blind. It becomes very, very difficult. And if you don't have a really, really good kind of Dance of Swords, that W, to be able to actually reduce damage, Defiant Dance, excuse me, you won't really be able to survive and have much effect.
Well, the game is 800 apart. C9 in the lead. TSM up the mountain, Drake. We once again take stock of our lanes. Mid lane, pretty much equivalent. Top lane off by 1. Jungle off by 3. It is neck and neck here in this one. And the stun's going to look for the back line. Not quite going to find the stun, but Slows is still there for Zeyzal. He's going to get pulled back as well. He's tanky for a while. Blabber going to look to rejoin on towards Grig. They can maybe burn down, but Sven could fight as well. They find a knockup. Grig staying alive, toss it in. They get a giant knockup out of Licorice. The watch for the Swain. He's not going to get more than a single kill. Is Cloud9 still going to get ahead? They'll knock down Bjergsen. They get a couple traded back, though. It's still neck and neck in this fight. But Cloud9 coming out slightly ahead. Look for the re-engage. Licorice burning down the Q. Will not quite kill him. It's Cloud9 +1 in the fight.
And just barely. Haunter does not finish off Licorice, so it is a slight advantage to Cloud9. 2 for 3 in that fight, but dang, it was close.
That was so ridiculously close there. These engagements have been so important for Cloud9. They want to be proactive, and they're happy to turn around this fight after the missed ultimate from Brig, as we'll see here in our Acer Predator replay. TSM starts off the fight, but it's a TP in from Jensen. Cloud9 re-engage.
And Zeyzal turns it around on the Aurelia, groups them up for Jensen. Once he comes in, he lands the taunt, and that allows Licorice to hit the ultimate, finishing off the first kill. Then, though, they still were able to have the burst damage to answer back. Zeyzal goes down. They focus Bjergsen, even though he gets one on the way out.
Yeah, and this from Haunter so close to the W from Licorice. That shield barely keeping him alive. Just able to get out.
Just barely, but it happened. Cloud9 up 1,200 gold, still 1-0 in turrets.
Back to the scene of the crime here, though, to the top side. They push out the wave. They actually don't stick around to finish off the turret, though, and instead move over to try and defend a lot of the vision that they've established on top.
We can see the emphasis on playmaking here from Licorice as well. Going for a lot of CDR in this build. He grabbed a Kindle Gem, has the Iceborne, that's already 30, and then likely going to be an Abyssal after that. 3-man bot, though.
One bot lane. Licorice gonna find a whole lot of friends. Gets nothing for a knock-up, and the kill goes over to Gangplank. Haunter gets the shutdown on a 2-kill streak, Ornn.
And Cloud9 was actually trying to roam 4 members down bot when I feel like you should be pushing elsewhere. There's no way they were going to get there in time. They were still in the mid lane.
Yep, Sven here is left all by himself on the tower, gets it down below half health with pretty free push after that minion wave.
And he's just safe up there. That's XP and gold that Cloud9 went up and get back.
Oh, it's not free yet. Zeyzal here wants to make him pay for it with his own life.
3 versus 1. Shen can't join. No teleports available either. They find the stun, and he's got no Zhonya's. He's got no escape buttons, but he's going to keep trying to run. That's not going to happen. Hextech ultimatum guarantees it, and the kill goes over yet again to Blabber, his 3rd. The bot lane's being pushed. Gangplank found the turret.
And TSM is roaming up here, so C9 gonna have to back off. They do get a kill in the turret, but it was closer than they would have wanted it to be.
Blow for blow once again, though. I mean, this entire series so far has been 1 for TSM, now 1 for Cloud9. Now, they're trying to reset afterwards. It looks like they are both going to take a breather here before we get back out onto the Rift.
And I really want to track how Zeyzal is doing in these team fights, because almost all of his ultimates have been missing or just landing the slow.
That was the stun,
not
though.
actually getting the stun.
That one did just stun Swain.
But we'll have to see how he's going to be able to perform in these
Future run
fights.
Definitely important. Big damage out of Sneaky, knocking Mithy down below 1K. Able to walk back, though, getting a little bit of support from Brig there. Back in the bird form they go, waiting for the first power spike, the gigantic power spike, I should say, for Sneaky, i.e. only the combined to go for that item to be done. Zhonya's now completed for Sven. That was the timing where that top lane kill came through, so now it's going to be even easier for Swain to team fight.
Yeah, well, let's see how he's going to be able to perform. And Bjergsen definitely having trouble in a lot of these fights, has been getting locked down very, very heavily.
Yeah.
On this Aurelia, and really does want to find, I think, kind of some of these more spread out, skirmish-heavy fights where he can be successful.
And at least Bjergsen has tabled that a little bit in the team fights. He now got a stopwatch. He's a little bit less easy to be pulled down, and his first major item after Triforce was the Sterix Gauge. So he's starting to add a little bit more of that durability. I agree, they're looking for more spread out things, using the Gangplank ultimate, but even in a team fight, Bjergsen at least has a couple more tools than last time. He's been pushed down so frequently in this game.
All right, they're going to send Sneaky back out to the top side. Split push here on the Quinn. It's what they choose this pick for later into the game. They had success with the Varus last time around, but they went back to the Quinn. He pushes the minion wave, then he wants to use his ultimate to try and join. Right now, the rest of the team has to be wary.
However, they've rooted him in place as well. He might not have a way out. He ults for a bit of time. He's trying to run. Will there be a chase down? The Q's going to land. They're going to find the stun. Bjergsen gets the kill.
This is all during the split push of Sneaky, so Blabber definitely shouldn't have been there. Should have been giving more respect to the pick from TSM. Regardless, though, Sneaky kept up the split push.
Yeah, Sneaky will get the turret. It seemed like Blabber couldn't get the hookshot over the wall there. Didn't get very much distance on the exit, and it's now TSM moving towards Baron. 5v4. Jungler is down for C9. They're going to have to buy time.
This is going to be the crucial team fight. Cloud9 4v5. TSM sitting at the Baron with no jungler alive. This should go the blue team's way. They find a bit of damage towards Sven. Comes in, a giant stun to the front line. They've got to flash away, but Licorice is left alone. He's going to fall. 2 straight kills for TSM, and it keeps going on towards Baron. Camille spawns in 2 seconds. You can run across the map, and maybe C9 can buy time till Zay's alive. But they are bleeding gold, and TSM still have most of their ultimates, 3 of them up.
Jensen heading over. Grig is pretty low life for that's an help.
They're gonna find the stun. Galio in the front. Zayzal gets found out. Here comes Galio. A good fight for Grig. Picks that one up. And the 5v3 team fight commences. Jensen buys a bit of time. Can he get that kill though? He's looking for it. He's gonna get Grig. But a trade kill, a double out for Sven. Cloud9 forced to run. It's 14-11 with a Baron buff on 4.
Sven just annihilated Sneaky there. The only DPS, but he one combos him on the Swain. 8 kills now for Sven.
Yeah, C9 feeling like they had to try to fight this, that they couldn't give up the Baron, despite it being in this 3v5 with Licorice down, with Blabber having died early. They go in, but there's multiple stopwatches to actually buy time here. Bjergsen goes in a stopwatch. Zhonya's pop for Sven, and it buys so much time, and then you see Sneaky getting really burst down.
Yep, Jensen there gets the taunt off, but there's no DPS because Sneaky was zoned out by Sven, then gets comboed down. Cloud9 cannot take them off of the Baron, and they give more kills over.
Yeah, and this is something we talked about earlier. When you don't have Blabber or Sneaky, when one of those pieces are missing, that is most of your damage. Those are the guys that have to really kind of carry the heavy weight in these team fights, and it's going to be tough for Sneaky alone to punch through someone like a Swain.
TSM starting to take over this map now with this 8-kill Swain, adding even more AP to his inventory. The death cap not terribly far away for him. Top lane now being pushed as well, and Sneaky can only sit and watch and let that turret fall. 4-4 in turrets. TSM in a 2,500 gold lead. 2 minutes still on the Baron buff. They can get more off this map.
All right, Baron buff doing its work here with the minions, and Haunter trying to open up some space for them with the barrels, but the rest of TSM will take the easy turret down mid lane, and they can retreat to pick up the Drake as well.
A good shot calling out of the most winningest team in North American history. TSM have never missed a world championship. There was hesitation at some point. They might have missed this year. If they didn't make quarterfinals, they could not have made worlds in any possible way. But they made that push at the end of the regular season. They made that push in their quarterfinal as well. And here they are looking down the barrel of a 2-1 lead towards Cloud9 if they keep this going. And maybe can continue their streak of victories against Cloud9 in best of 5s.
And a lot of that streak did start off the back of Bjergsen, returning to Assassins, making high kill games going for the team. But this time around, it has been Sven on the Swain, doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I mean, getting that quadra kill early on, definitely helping to get him going in this game. But TSM, I feel like, has the edge in a lot of this late game team fighting. Unless C9 can find that perfect engage, it's going to be so hard for them. And there really is a lot of pressure on Zayzal, on Licorice, and these guys to find that perfect engage.
The turret's going to fall as Baron ticks down to 30 seconds left. The resets came through. TSM flush with recent items. Bot lane inhibitor now under attack. 25 seconds to the Baron buff. Gangplank ult comes down, plus some barrels to zone C9 off. And they're going to go for the ult. It's going to miss completely from Zayzal. And the knockup comes through for 2 onto Licorice, but now, with TSM backing up, there is no fight to be had. Cloud9 tried their engage.
Yeah, very disjointed. I mean, Zayzal misses the ult on everyone there. Then Licorice decides to throw down his ultimate afterwards, and
that one wasn't even close.
Yeah, that's rough, because now they have no way to defend this turret. TSM's just going to walk forward.
The Baron buff has timed out. They bought that wave, and TSM now no longer able to keep their minions alive. That might have been all the ults were for, just to buy 30 seconds, and that did happen.
Also, going back to look at the top lane, the Zayzal ultimate on the Swain, he was right next to him and he Q-stunned him, so it actually wasn't the ult stun, but it wouldn't have mattered because they both would have been the stun.
Don't be toxic, blaming me.
But for the record, Azale was right.
It's
bigger
okay.
brain.
I'm used to it. I'm used to it.
I'm used to Azale being right as well.
So, a lot to go on here in this game. Deathcap now in for Jensen, and he is really the sole magic damage threat for the team. So he's got to really kind of have as much possible AP. He's not going for more of a tanky AP build. This is more Glass Cannon with the Ludens into Deathcap. No Zhonyas, no Leandries for health or anything along those lines. So he is going to be really squishy if he ever gets stunned without his W channeling.
It's interestingly 3x Ninja Tabby for TSM. They've actually chosen to itemize more against Sneaky. As you're mentioning, Jensen is going to be a pretty big character here in this one. Quicksilver Sash done for Sneaky is going to give him some MR, but Death Cap in for Sven might mean they can just 1v5 any team fight.
One thing I'm a little bit surprised about itemization-wise is actually the Maw for Haunter, because yes, Jensen does have some upfront burst, but you have to feel like Asterix may be more effective when it's probably Sneaky and Blabber that are really required to burst him down.
I assume he wants to 10 CDR.
I mean, you can also get CDR off a Spirit Visage, which gives some health as well in it to be a more universal item. But yes, good points, both of you, fellows.
Thank you, Kobe. Great pass in the day, by the way.
Regardless, though, TSM with so much control. Look at that Baron power play. 5.8 thousand gold for themselves, and they retain control over Baron with not a lot of ways for Cloud9 to pry that back open. You have to look at, very far down the stretch. Are they going to be able to make the pick this time around? These critical abilities, Azale, that you're bringing up, the Leona ultimate, the Ornn ultimates, and the combo of the Galio plus the Camille, these have to be in place onto someone on TSM who is away from the rest of the team. Haunter, Bjergsen, pick off one of those carries early on.
And it becomes so tough to get that if you have to run through Grig and run through Mithy to actually do it, because you can't just drop those ults on the Sejuani and expect to win the team fight. You have to catch Bjergsen or Haunter probably and burst them down, because those are really, to me, the only realistic options of someone you could pop at the start. You're not going to kill off a cleansed Swain before he gets Zhonya's off.
Seems almost impossible. Require your hands to leave your keyboard. In the words of Sven, if you have a keyboard, you can pretty much do anything you want. I paraphrased by kind of a little bit there, but either way, we now press around the mid lane. Greg's going to find a bit of a slow. Blabber in the front line's got Guardian Angel. Mid lane cleared. TSM, they've got control of this one. Round 2 on Baron in 20 seconds.
Gold lead for Haunter is really where most of kind of the added power is, though, for TSM. He is a good 4,000 gold ahead of Licorice, and if he can be very effective in these teamfights, certainly could carry TSM through.
He's been very good at the barrel chains, and they're so successful against melee champions.
Zazel, not that important.
Moving up.
Horn, here comes the engage, the knockup only onto Aurelia. Looking for Mithy now off to the side, maybe for Grig, maybe for Haunter, a two-man stun. Here comes the pile drive, but they're not gonna find any CC just yet. Licorice can hold the team across as Grig falls down. Sway to the backline, can he make it happen? Sven's trying to get the kills picked up, he's running a bit low though, has his Zhonya's, and Bjergsen picks off Sneaky. It's TSM coming back, and Furious looking for more kills, a third in a row. They will not get a single trade back. It's TSM wiping the floor with Cloud9.
They're not done yet, Freak. They force the flash out of Licorice, and he has to run through the base gates. TSM heading down the mid lane.
I think they could just end the game here. There's 30 to 40 seconds on a lot of these spawns. We'll see if Licorice can clear it out or if they're going to go for it.
You might have to pull the wave. They're pushing forward after the inhib. They're showing they want to go for the turrets, and Licorice is going to sit behind the turrets and wait for his team to spawn. Is it going to be the right call? The turrets are falling rapidly, and it's still 15 to 20 seconds, and most of them coming back. He finally fights, but it's too late. He's alone against 4. There's no minions left. His ult doesn't matter, and TSM are a game away from the finals.
What a strong performance from Sven there. That man on your screen, 10 and 2 on the Swain. Haunter as well, dominating on the top side of the map, 5-0 and 12. Those guys were so critical in those late game team fights.
Absolutely huge stuff out of him. It started with that quadra kill behind the Drake pit, and Sven got out to a gigantic lead and never ever looked back. Huge stuff out of him, his 4th Swain game, and probably his best yet.
For us, we're also seeing a little bit of split calls from Cloud9, it looks like, down the stretch in the later game team fights, when the pressure is rising. And we keep on highlighting how impressive it is that they have so many young players on the team, but it looks like they do need to get those players on the same page and a little bit more focus.
Well, Cloud9's backs against the wall. TSM with the 2-1 lead, and as they manage to bring the series to match point, let's hear just how they did that and throw it over to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Freak. A slugfest of a game in what is a slugfest of a series now at this point. 2-1 in favor of TSM, but in this game, very back and forth. We saw both teams even in kills at multiple states throughout the games, and the fight's going one way or another until eventually TSM starts to roll over.
4 melees and a Quinn, you know that they're looking to fight early and often, and this was really the first big one of the game, which TSM actually did a great job of being able to kind of trade out aggro, and this entire time, Sven on that Swain is untouched, and you can just see how much that lets him do. And then, you know what, even though the ult's over, he's got a red buff, he's got auto attacks, he's got a lot of points in Q, he can spam away at this point.
Really close to TSM's third penta of the playoffs. They ended up cleaning up the Ornn on the back end of this fight, and this is how every fight is going to play out. You're going to notice a pattern. There's going to be a Swain, there's going to be a bunch of melee champions around him, and there's not much they can really do to the Swain. This is like the one time I believe they're able to actually kill him in a fight. Other than that, the GP ult and the Swain dominated this game.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times Bjergsen, as a result, was kind of giving his body up to go in and draw some of their attention because of the melee champions. Like, TSM's comp is all midline. Like, GP is not a backline threat. He's kind of in between, so he's in parlay range, but not so far out. Same with Swain, same with Aurelia. She's a little bit more of a diver, and so, like, the one that has to dive in goes in and dies, but then you buy space for Haunter and Sven, always kind of the two left alive.
Yeah, when you're facing something like Camille Galio, someone is going to get one shot, and someone's going to get focused. But and they did that at lots of Bjergsen. But when you have everyone being kind of this, you know, carry / bruiser, you're going to have a lot of people surviving, like Sven does in a lot of these fights, being able to get off the damage and clean up fights. And you see short-range AD carry versus Swain is going to be a bad time.
Yeah, and then this time it's Grig's turn to draw the short straw. Like, hey, Grig, I've died a lot. How about this time you die when all of them use all their CC on you? How about that? And I mean, it works. You do trade one person, but you've used everything. He drops his stopwatch, and now here comes Sven again, just big old bird.
In 5 people.
Yeah, he doesn't even stopwatch this whole fight because he knows that there's not enough damage left to
Wait for it,
him.
Mark. Wait for it.
Yeah, he does.
Excuse me. I misspoke.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
I killed you all. He pressed it.
There it is.
Yeah.
I promise.
I think what's interesting, though, when hearing you guys talk in this fashion or about the game in this fashion is that both teams were executing based on what their compositions are meant to do. And yet, as the game went on, the fight seemed to go just slightly more and more and more in TSM's favor, which to me implies that C9 lost this game in the drafting phase unless they were to get so substantially far ahead they could just run it essentially down mid lane.
I mean, in this draft, it really felt like C9 was just completely ignoring what TSM could do and just drafting a comp that they wanted to play. I mean, they put 4 melee divers and especially a strong bot lane diving team comp. Like, you pick this into an immobile marksman so that you can obliterate their bot lane and then snowball through the game. But they pick so many of these tools so early that TSM can adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you said. It seems like they came in with a game plan of what they wanted to do, similar to game 1, and they didn't really seem to care what TSM was going to respond with. And then this is kind of what you end up with, where you're kind of on a timer throughout the whole entire game, and it makes it really difficult to win fights as the game goes on.
Yeah, I just hate it. Like, oh man, if I didn't know Sven played Swain, it's like, yes, you do. He's been playing it week 9. He played it in quarters. Like, why are you picking Leona first phase? You're showing your hand so hard here. And I think if they didn't show that, I expected TSM to take something else.
So to clarify on that point, you're okay with Leona as a pick, just not where it came in this draft as a result of, or more.
By showing their hand so early, they allowed TSM to pick the perfect team comp into what your game plan is. If you pick the Quinn there because you've been showing priority on Quinn and you take the Camille with it and you don't show that you're necessarily going full kill lane, then they might take the Kai'Sa earlier on or the Varus
or the
earlier
Varus
on.
that you left up.
Right, and then you can start trying to kill that. But because you show a Leona of all things out of nowhere, just because a Shen is showing, suddenly if I'm TSM, I'm like, warning bells, something cheesy's happening in the bot lane.
Yeah, and I will say TSM responded exactly how they should.
Perfectly,
right?
perfect.
Like getting the GP early and then also having the Swain Aurelia on the back end. It's exploiting also the fact that C9 has such a high priority on Ornn. Like, basically a blind GP, they don't ban out top lane champions after blinding GP, and they just play against Ornn anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy because
C9 didn't react, but TSM crushed them.
Right. I mean, like, imagine if that's Quinn and then you have Camille, they take the GP, you take the Ornn, and now they still don't know that you have a Leona coming potentially later in the draft, and maybe that Swain turns into a Varus or Kai'Sa, and they don't do that.
Don't have side selection just yet, but single biggest change you want to see when it comes to C9's draft?
I think the biggest things is one, I think you need to get off Ornn. Yes, it was good in game 2 and it was useful, but I think that Licorice can do a lot more if he's on a different champion. And even if he's on like still on a tank, I think if he's on, Scion or even his Poppy is really good, I think it could help the team more than the Ornn does.
And I think this is maybe where you revisit the substitution thing if you have.
I'll have information on the substitution. I do have side selection. Side selection TSM with side selections going back to red side. And so we have at least that as of right now.
I was going to say, it feels like Blabber's at his best on things like Camille and Nocturne and all this stuff. And if you're talking about putting Licorice onto more carries, you probably still want some beef in the lineup, and that's probably where Sven Skarin would do a lot.
Chad, I'm coming to you. Sven and Golden Glue are in.
All right.
Match point.
Oh,
Match point for TSM. They're bringing in Sven and Golden Glue.
If you're going to run a 7-man roster and you've lost 2 games in a series, you do it.
You got to do it.
That's exactly it. And I think because of that, they can change their jungle picks. They don't need to ban out all these tank junglers. They just trade tank junglers. And it theoretically completely changes the dynamic of the draft. It should open up Gangplank as well for them in the top lane. So all that can still work. What I'm really interested in now is you're pulling in Golden Glue in the mid lane, who doesn't have playoff experience. And when we saw that TSM huddle at the start of this segment, all of the experience in that huddle, all of those guys have been to Worlds for so many times. Like, you're bringing them in.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going, Mark. I know exactly.
They just won Academy Worlds.
Academy Worlds, Matt.
What are you talking about? Experience?
Come on. Even his interview too at the end? He's like, I'm amazed that I went from never playing in an LCS playoffs to winning a world championship. It's a pretty big leap. It happened so quick in my career. He does have some playoff experience, but I think that's a big thing, right? It is a big risk.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of the fact that they've
any other
shown
choice.
confidence in the 7-man roster up to this point, it is a big risk to take a guy who hasn't played in the LCS playoffs and say, of all people, we're pulling Jensen off the Rift to put you in.
It's going to be a tough task for them, but I will say the good thing for C9, I think, so far is I do think they've been team fighting really well. It's just the tools that they have is kind of limited. So if they maybe switch up their draft, get something a little bit more standard, tank jungler, maybe get Licorice on a carry, pick something that's not Quinn, so you have more options in terms of late game. I think they can turn it around easily.
Any final thoughts from you guys here?
I am hoping that these drafts have been because C9 thinks they're drafting around a champion pool deficiency somewhere, and that by bringing these in, they can change that. Because I do think the #1 problem for C9 this series has been bad drafts.
Well, big moves out of the Cloud9 camp here as they are needing to put 2 games back-to-back. We'll see if Cloud9 can even it out in the series in Game 4. Their semifinal versus TSM continues when we return.